Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchtime Series with me, Kevin Britz, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's brand new 2025 show, marketing and leadership segment with marketing and communications expert and co-host Craig Pagely. How are you doing, Craig?
Yeah, Kevin, great. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the welcome. And yes, I saw you stumble over that. It is our very first show of 2025. So yeah, great to be chatting today. And it's 189, 11 to go. Still the big number 200. We're going to build into something really special in the next sort of 3 months. Looking forward to that. And yeah, from the general chats we've had, I know you had quite a good festive season, and I think you did some good traveling as well, Kevin.
Yes, Craig. We're very fortunate to be able to have gone away, gone to Europe. So spending time in Prague, Budapest, and Amsterdam. So having a bit of a white Christmas, which was just the best experience. 45 years of having, South African Christmases, suddenly going to freezing cold, and having Budapest sort of welcome you with a bit of snow. It's such an experience, and it just changes how you experience Christmas. So really.
Kevin, it's an amazing city. It really is. Did you get to go to the steam baths and things like that?
We did. We went to three different ones, and it was we almost didn't get tickets. It was so full, but it's the most insane kind of experience. I don't know if you've been to this.
Yeah, I've been to a few. Hence me asking, because it's bitterly cold out there. It's either raining or snowing, but you're in these incredible external pools, and the water's warm, and it's just this. It's an incredible experience. It really is.
It is. It's nothing like I've ever come across. And I've traveled a bit in the world, but yeah, it was just a phenomenal time. And yourself, Craig, how was your festive season?
It was fairly low-key. Did a bit of house sitting for some mates, looking after the four-legged friends. My son came up from Cape Town, spent some good time with me, cooked, entertained, and yeah, had an enjoyable but short, low-key year-end. Looking forward to potentially getting some time overseas when I get to travel on business soon.
Yeah, fantastic. Craig, so with the start of today, and I've been doing some, I just wanted to share this as a first kickoff to this new year. I've done some analytics and checking on how, what's the Lunchtime Series what's happening there. And, just in the last 4 years, and this is without any active sponsorships happening and support, right? We've had the Lunchtime Series had over 210,000 views in the last 4 years.
Wow.
We've had up to 8,500 hours of watch time. The impressions that we've got all over,
the various channels.
Over 407,000 impressions.
Fantastic.
Listener retention is really fantastic, which is really nice. It's up to 85%.
Oh, wow.
And we've only done this with about 2,500 subscribers, right? So, as a milestone, I wanted to share just, what we're doing and how we're doing what we're doing and how's it going.
Well, a lot of that, I have to attribute a lot of that to you, because you're really working the distribution aspect and dissemination aspects of the show. So, big up to you in that one, Kevin.
Thank you. Yeah. And, this year, I've got a keen focus of really, and I've been, and this is probably a conversation we'll touch on in the next couple of months, but the importance of what podcasting has become, and, how people are using it as a leveraging marketing tool to support business, to support brand. It's just amazing. So we're ahead of the curve to a large degree. And, it's next up, for any of those brands listening out there, if you really want to start getting recognized and in people's faces, let us know, because we can help you do that.
Fantastic. And I think, I'm cognizant of the fact that, bringing it down to within that half hour is an important piece. I know when we started 3 years ago, we had 45 minutes, sometimes 50-minute conversations, and we worked really hard to, package it in within half an hour. It's a drive time for somebody to work or back and things like that. So, it's a lunchtime, listen, those kinds of things. So it's important to be cognizant of time-starved people, but to at least try and get a decent review of the content that we're presenting over in that period of time.
Absolutely. And because I'm doing so much investigation on what is working, what is not working, even if you have a recorded episode that is longer than the 30 minutes, what it is you showcase and what it is you promote and present, that's important. Right?
Yeah.
So you can get the longer version on YouTube, you can get the shorter version on whatever other channel, but it's really the important factor is, brands really need to tap into what podcasting can do for their brands, and it's becoming a serious phenomenon out there. Which is really cool.
When we do land ourselves a decent sponsor, we'll be able to package and top and tail and cut it down into segments and get more than one post out of the content that we're sharing each week. So looking forward to banging down some doors and getting some relevant brands who want to come on the journey with us.
Absolutely. Craig, so kicking it off for the first show, what do we have in store for our first show of 2025?
Kevin, thanks. Yeah. For our first show, I want to cover an article I came across in MIT Sloan Management review as recently as 5 days ago. And I selected this article because it addresses an incredibly important and relevant topic, which really warrants being our first conversation for the year. Some very simple concepts that come out of this particular topic, but important because it's about the longevity and effectiveness of leadership. So the article is titled 3 Non-Negotiable Leadership Skills for 2025. The article was written by Melissa Swift. Nice bit of humor and tongue-in-cheek in it. And it was published to sloanreview.mit.edu on the 16th of January this year, less than a week ago. And the important point here is the opening paragraph, which notes the following. As we kick off a new year, what are the handful of skills leaders must have to navigate a tricky moment in the history of human work? And that just to re-emphasize, we really are at that pivotal point. And what does research tell us about how to build those leadership skills? Well, Kevin, it's definitely a topic that will resonate with you. I know that you play in the space on a daily basis. And it's one that you'll understand why it deserves to be the focus of our first show for the year.
Yeah, Craig. And when I read this, and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting because I've already got like some insight of what's coming. So yeah, jumping straight into the show, what does the article tell us about Leadership 2025?
Yeah, I think it sets the tone through the second and third paragraphs, Kevin. Here, it provides some interesting context because it refers to the metaphor of fire, which I'm sure you can imagine really has a lot of relevance to business, especially when there's bad leadership at play. And these 2 paragraphs read as follows. So in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, factory floors used to spontaneously catch fire as many industrial operations generated enough sawdust during the working day to make the whole place flammable at the slightest spark. Why does this matter now? Well, you might say we're living in an electronically enabled version of that world today. Work is messy and volatile. While things are generally not physically on fire, they sure can feel like it.
Yeah, and I think it's quite an interesting analogy because, when a spark starts a flame like that, usually it's quite uncontrollable.
Correct.
Unbelievable measures in place and ways to curb the fire. It could get quite messy.
But if leaders learn to navigate this tricky moment in the history of human work, I can guarantee you these 3 simple points that we're going to discuss today will help quench the flames or actually ensure that they never flare up at all, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned this, Craig, because Los Angeles is on fire.
Oh, gosh. I had a look at some of the photographs today again. I've been following it very, very keenly. And I just, again, can you sit here and imagine 5,000 plus homes in your neighborhood just having been obliterated to the ground?
Yeah, when you see the photographs, because I've seen a lot of before and after, and that's a very obvious practical observation of how destructive fire can be. So, it's quite interesting that this is the analogy of
So just to pick up on that, I'm very glad you've mentioned it. So there's this fantastic satellite image that was the superimposed of the before and after, and as you drag your cursor across the screen, you can actually see the final image of the devastation. I don't know if you've seen that particular interactive piece. Now, what's interesting in that is there are a couple of homesteads that had much less damage than the others. The others were burnt to the ground, and there are a couple, very few, that actually stood quite rigid in the mix. And the reality there is those homes are made of concrete or brick masonry. Okay, so they were built in preparation of this particular kind of proposition or experience that's just been experienced. So when you have the right leadership in place and the preparation is there, you shouldn't have to get to the fire moment. And that really stood out for me as, those homes that stood were built in anticipation. So let's jump into the first skill then and go through these. So the first skill to prioritize for leaders is referenced as the baseline. And this is about fairness, Kevin. And before we review the article, I want to take a brief look at the definition. In fact, for all three of the skills we're looking at today, I've gone off-piste and looked at the definitions relative to what that word is outside of the context of the article. Then I've had a look at a definition in respect of that term within business, and then we have each term. So in this particular instance, according to the Oxford Language, fairness is defined as impartial and just treatment or behavior without favoritism or discrimination. Part of my role is to ensure fairness to all parties. Now, according to Cornell University, fairness in the workplace is defined as an aspect of organizational justice with regards to both process and outcome impartiality. And I really like that. Some of the factors that support fair treatment in the workplace include mutual respect, strong interpersonal relationships, and honest communication, Kevin.
Craig, I love that that's just, the starting point and baseline, as you mentioned, because, if we look at the Arbiter Institute of Leadership, when they speak about the inward-outward mindset, the one specific premise that it's based on is, when we have a very inward approach, the attitude and mindset of that is, well, what's in it for me, right? And, the challenge that the Arbiter Institute of Leadership is posing is, well, what if you took a different aspect or a different approach, like the fairness aspect, and say, okay, cool, what's in it for me, but what's in it for you while I'm gaining? So it's a win-win on both sides of the part. And it's not just, well, this is good for me because it's good for me. So that fairness quality, it's absolutely a human quality to drive leadership.
Fantastic. Yeah, and thanks for picking up on that. Yeah, so going back to the core content here, we note that there actually is a lot to be concerned about in the workplace at the moment, Kevin. Engagement levels are definitely trending down. Disengagement levels are most definitely trending up. And another major concern is that workers are definitely becoming more polarized in their political belief, something that is definitely playing out very strongly in the USA at this particular moment in time, with as many as 70% of workers noting that they're dissatisfied with their salaries. And this has definitely signaled one of the lowest points for many organizations, Kevin. And this is really where the topic of fairness takes center stage. It is, however, important to note that the author is referring to interpersonal fairness. And an example of this is when a piece of information is given to you, do you judge the information on its merits or solely evaluate it based on who it came from? So there's a bit of bias that plays into that particular proposition as well. Do you talk and listen equally in meetings, or do you cut someone off, or do you cut some of your colleagues off? And finally, have you ever been accused of playing favorites? And if so, did the statement have the sting of truth?
Well, what's interesting about that is if it is stinging, it might have a bit of truth to it.
That is one. Truth in both directions. Yeah. Yeah. So Kevin, the author notes that this type of fairness can be tough to implement, as it's often a real challenge for leaders to treat high and low performers the same. There's definitely a bias to the high performer, and there's often a negative bias to the low performer. And one would easily argue that it's not necessary to treat high and low performers the same. Absolutely, some would say. However, various studies show that leaders being fairly protective against burnout, and conversely, that a perceived lack of fairness causes people to burn out fast. So when you do step in and you take those biases away and you treat both high and low performers the same, you're helping mitigate the aspect of burnout. And when you're not stepping in, you're definitely causing people to experience more burnout. So Kevin, fairness definitely can be a tricky skill to build because it actually sits deep within people's psyche. Certain academics, though, have noted that it is a great, or at least that a great place to start is by understanding relationship justice, task justice, and distributive justice. So, yeah, I'm sure you've come across these three propositions, these being defined as the three dimensions of fairness in leadership behavior. So I'll quickly give a single line definition or breakdown of each of those. So relationship justice is about treating people in a just manner, showing professionalism, showing dignity, showing respect, and practicing out ethics. Task justice is about doing things fairly, keeping promises, making decisions properly, and communicating about those decisions transparently. And distributive justice is slightly different. The dimensions here strive to match people's outcomes to the effort they put in. So do you recognize team members properly for the work they do, not for the individual who's doing it? And here the author, Melissa, notes that the following learnings to perfect this skill is about depending on the dimension of which you feel like you might be falling short. Your strategy is to build the muscles around that particular proposition because those muscles are different. Facebook loops help build skills in relationship to justice. Focus on figuring out whether people, at least feedback loops, listen to me, Facebook loops. Feedback loops help build skills in relationship justice. It's about focus on figuring out where or whether people feel treated fairly when they interact with you. To improve your skill at task justice, formal decision-making frameworks or even quick heuristics can be helpful. And to improve your skills at distributive justice, take a small data approach. Given, for instance, did you use enough words in an email to thank someone? Are you giving people the same number of opportunities they do for good work? And any structure around decision-making pushes your brain to be more fair. And when it comes to being fair, the beauty about it is the little things are the big things and they do matter.
Great. What's interesting about this is, and I want to share, a quick story that just recently happened. Someone used the LA fires and used it as a religious poke to some of the destruction that's happening in Israel, and so it became and they did it on a public forum, and I know this person, and what I then posted, and I was like, it's so sad to see that one, and it relates back to justice, where one tyranny and sadness happening to one group of people is directly then praised and sort of deemed okay, when it happens differently in a different world, in a different place. And they made a religious connotation to this, and I was like, it's sad to think that as humans, we are still at that point where we defend such injustice, and we kind of go, oh yeah, it's in the name of something. And someone then commented on this and said, but we must understand that we have evolved from sort of strong beliefs and ways that's very difficult to unevolve out of. And he had this big sort of comment about my statement, and I said to him, but you must realize we're not living in caves. We're not cavemen. Be a little bit more responsible. And that's why when it comes to the injustices and fairness, it's such an important leadership quality, because quite frankly, you're not living in a cave. just be better at being a leader, and just be more responsible for the people in your charge. So I think the fairness, as much as it seems like a quirky kind of phrase, or an important thing we should be aware of, it really runs really deep when you really consider leadership in the world right now, and the decisions that's happening in the world right now. Fairness is an unbelievably important statement and skill that leaders need to practice.
And what's going to be interesting here is, particularly around this last statement here that talks around structure around decision making, pushes your brain to be more fair. So let's see how much structure goes into the thinking and decision making from Trump, and where the fairness is amplified or neutralized. And I think there might be a slight bias to neutralization. Let's wait and see.
Craig, the second non-negotiable, what is the non-negotiable that they speak about?
So, Kevin, the second leadership skill that needs to be prioritized is referenced as the growth accelerator. And in this particular instance, it's about curiosity. And I really like this concept here. So as with the first skill, I want to quickly have a look at a brief definition of curiosity here. Oxford Language tells us that curiosity is defined as a strong desire to know or learn something, or an unusual or interesting object or fact. Looking at curiosity in the workplace, bluecompass.com notes that what drives employees to explore different perspectives and solutions when faced with challenges. So curiosity is what drives employees to explore different perspectives and solutions when faced with challenges. And a curious mindset leads to more creative and effective problem solving, as individuals are willing to question assumptions, gather opposing points of view, and experiment with new approaches. And that really is what we want our people in the business to be doing.
But what's interesting, Craig, is if you think of curiosity, there's, it's part of the winged skill of creativity and critical thinking. Because the moment you apply critical thinking to a scenario and a situation, you have to become curious about it, right? So, and in the curiosity or critically thinking process of unpacking it, you then have to come up with creative solution to support, what potentially the outcomes could be. So unbelievable, for me, curiosity is the one thing you should lead with every single time, every single decision, every single conversation. Because it really helps a set of thinking processes far more than just well, I know what I'm talking about, or you don't know who I am, and or I'm the manager, I'm the leader. There's so many stumbling blocks that you experience if you don't lead with curiosity.
And that's a wonderful segue to the very next sentence that I'm actually going to quote, because here the author actually advises that we should take note. Think of curiosity as a way to hack the predictable circuitry of the organization and plot a better career growth journey, as it's often tough to wait for the perfect stretch assignment to come along. It's just such a powerful statement in that regard. So you're responsible for plotting your own career journey. An example that many of our listeners can probably relate to in response to this particular concept of thinking is that I did this incredible development program, learned all of this new stuff, but now where am I? Stuck in the same job with no chance to apply any of it. So the great learning here is that deploying curiosity can help you decouple your career path from those often stagnant and arduous march of organizational change promises, which never really materialize. So again, hack the predictable circuitry of the organization and plot a better career growth journey.
Well, and what's interesting about that is, someone once, and I learned this 25 years ago, Craig, is someone once said to me, and you probably mentioned it to you before, is ask yourself the question, what are you not willing to do that you haven't done yet?
Yeah.
Right. And when you really start unpacking that as a conversation, you really start going, okay, so let me become really curious about what is the one thing I'm avoiding. And therefore you can start actively tapping into how am I channeling and carving the career path that I want to create, because you're not asking the right question.
Correct. And again, a lovely segue into the next piece, because having led many teams in the various agencies that I've managed is, and this is where I totally agree with the author, is that I have to encourage my teams to not just look into the organization for the cues to decouple, but actually to look outside the organization as part of that learning journey. And through this approach, team members can definitely, or are absolutely, exposed to different sorts of conversations, which will most definitely help them in creating those stretch initiatives and not just for, but also creating the respective roles that they are looking for, Kevin. Key here is just ask different questions, positions both you and your work differently, but you have to be curious to change your question bank, and that relates directly to what you've just said. You have to be curious to change your question bank, and I really do like that as a phrase to remember, Kevin. Melissa also notes the following important point. Curiosity may become the cost of entry to success, given that more than half of your co-workers are already seeking out learning beyond the workplace. So not being curious could be a career-limiting move. However, similar to fairness, curiosity can seem very innate and hard to build in adult life. But I really love the reference to a point from one of the psychological studies that are referenced in the article, Kevin. It suggests that curiosity is the brain's attempt to fill information gaps. And again, it's just such simple phrases that are coming out of this powerful piece of insight. In essence, when you know a decent amount, but not everything about a topic, your brain starts itching to fill in those missing pieces. Caution here, because this particular proposition is most definitely in contrast to the traditional, call it the face-saving corporate behavior, where when you know a lot but not everything about something, we all tend to cover up the knowledge gap with what they say is fake it till you make it.
And sometimes you can stick your foot in your mouth, right?
Absolutely.
I just want to add to that curiosity piece, Craig, is, part of leaning into curiosity is not necessarily comfortable. And that's, I always teach, when I'm dealing with leadership and the programs that we work on, is the degree of your discomfort is the degree of your learning, right? Mm-hmm. So as soon as you tap into the discomfort and go, wow, man, this is really uncomfortable, I've never been here. Just ask yourself, okay, so now that you haven't been here, like, what are you learning, right? And just the frame of what are you learning forces your brain to kind of go, well, I don't know what the hell I'm learning. I'm learning that I'm uncomfortable. And then it becomes a loop of like really unpacking furthermore to where you are currently. And that in itself is leaning into that curiosity, because it's not necessarily comfortable, but definitely necessary.
So that's beautiful, because the author gives us 3 takeaway learning facts around this particular skill set, and that really is playing into the first one, which says build curiosity and give yourself a break from maintaining an all-knowing facade. Take a step back and ask yourself what you know about that you'd love to know more about. Just looking at it from a different angle. The second of the 3 points here is identify your most interesting information gaps and go and fill them. By getting into the habit of filling in the blank spaces, your brain will ask to do it more and more. And the third point here is be interesting and interested, as the saying goes.
Yeah. My mother also taught me that when I was younger. It's like the quickest way to make friends is, ask people questions, like be interested in people, because, because then they're going to talk to you. So, it's a fundamental. So just to recap on those 3 sort of takeaways for leaders in 2025 is fairness. Growing others requires treating them with impartiality and creating an environment where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. And curiosity, leaders must cultivate a mindset of learning and encourage their teams to seek growth and innovation. And a sense of humor. Growth is also about creating a positive culture where challenges are approached with resilience and perspective. And I think, Craig, just on that last point about the sense of humor, is I had to learn this the hard way. But essentially, if you can't laugh at yourself, then, maybe you should start there.
Yeah, but yeah, so in light of the sense of humor, I don't know how much time we've got to go on the show, but there are definitely some wonderful points that Melissa brings across in terms of sense of humor. And I think it's important I just quickly want to give the definitions here, because there's a really important statement she makes around not trying to be too funny. So firstly, in terms of the Oxford language again, sense of humor is defined as a person's ability to perceive humor or appreciate a joke. But according to the Cambridge Dictionary, sense of humor is defined as the ability to find things funny in a way in which people see that some things are funny or the quality of being funny. Okay. But the sense of humor in the workplace is the important thing here, is that humor is correlated with a wide range of positive life outcomes, including interpersonal confidence and societal success, attractiveness and both relationship satisfaction and success, well-being, resilience, leadership effectiveness, job performance, and career satisfaction. And surely any leader in any well-respected organization would want to be able to understand the ability to temper some of that humor in the conversation, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think it comes with just having a good sense of when is a good time to just not be so serious.
There we go. Yeah.
All the time, like we have to be serious, and life's about achieving and putting things out there, and to a large degree for a lot of people.
Absolutely, not taking yourself so seriously and just knowing where the dial needs to stay in that regard. But there's an interesting fact that Melissa presents in the article here, is that the principle around having a sense of humor does come with a cautionary note, because if you're staffing an emergency room or conducting hostage negotiations, these two are definitely exempt from the advice of bringing a sense of humor to the fore.
Yes.
Kevin, and the key takeaway around the principle of sense of humor is that out of the spotlight of incredible seriousness with fight or flight pressure on the brain reduced, many problems actually become a lot more solvable. And this is a perfect reason for leaders to lean into displaying the right sense of humor at the right time.
And I would just end, from having a business and doing this for some time now, what I've learned about the sense of humor is, and I especially have a sense of humor when things go extremely bad.
Yes.
When you've done the pitch and you've done the expectation, and it just doesn't go your way, you kind of go, in that moment, I often find myself just laughing at the situation, going, wow, I really didn't expect it to go this bad. and sometimes it really just helps dealing with the problem and the situation in any case. But, it's another sort of quick kind of trick to use is, why are you being so serious? Like, why are you taking this so serious? Right? When it's life and death kind of moment, absolutely, there's a time and place for everything. But in general business, day-to-day business, sometimes it's good to just laugh about it.
Yeah.
Just doesn't help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. So just closing from my side, whilst to some folk these three sort of non-negotiable leadership principles may seem a little bit obscure or even somewhat questionable, I just think the application and the recommendations behind these are so simple that it's definitely worth including in your repertoire to be an effective leader in 2025.
And Craig, I love that, because I'm having a lot of leadership conversations, and it's the more I do have these conversations, the more it literally boils down to simple people skills that people have to break it down to. And if we look at fairness, curiosity, and sense of humor, like, why the hell not? Because it's in itself, all of those are absolute human skills. Correct.
And best leaders are good humans.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Craig, I love it. I love that's a good way to start the year off with, and what 2025 should look out for around your fairness, curiosity, and sense of humor. And just to end off, the quote for today is from Jack Welch, saying, "Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others."
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I've always loved that one. Yes.
Fantastic. Craig, thank you so much for the insights and the share, and I'm glad that we could start with our very first show. Guys, please remember to like and share and tune into the Lunchtime Series every week, Wednesday and Thursday. For myself and Craig, have a fantastic week. Craig, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, Kevin, thank you. Have a good one in between. Ciao.
Thanks. Just for now. Bye.
Bye.